Thank you, everyone, for coming to Transformational Tuesdays. I'm excited to have you here. And good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the country or in the world. We have some people who join us from international locations, so it's really exciting. And I'm excited to have you all here this morning as we enter into a conversation with my guest, Shelia Sutherland, who I will tell you about in just a minute. Excuse me, but for those of you who are new to Transformational Tuesdays or who haven't gone to the website yet, please go to the website for several different reasons. Number one, when you enter your information into the website, I send you a beautiful journal, 7 Keys to Authentic Transformation. And if you want the ebook that goes with that, just go to teresavelardi.com and I can send you the ebook, the original ebook that goes with that, the companion to the journal. And the other thing is you'll get the daily insights, the Transformational Tuesdays daily insights come into your inbox, and all the replays from Transformational Tuesdays are on the replay page for you to download. I started Transformational Tuesdays, I think it was 2010. I took a 2-year sabbatical from 2013 to 2015, and we came back with a new format, and then I discovered Zoom, so now we get to see each other, which is so exciting. We used to just be able to hear each other, so this is awesome. So I invite you to go get those replays, and the video replays are on the website, and they're also on our YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Okay, so I'm really excited to be bringing yet another transformational conversation to you today with my guest, Shelia Sutherland. Hi, Shelia.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
Great to see you. So let me tell you a little bit about Shelia as we start our conversation with her. Shelia is a certified life and relationship coach. She's a professional educator, an inspirational speaker, and most recently, Amazon International best-selling author and as a contributor to 365 Moments of Grace. She is also the creator and host of the podcast, Reignite Your Purpose. Shelia is a should disturber, where she focuses on taking the selfish out of self-care and inspiring people to unearth themselves from under the weight of the judgment and expectations of others to live a more authentic, connected, and vibrant life. Welcome, Shelia.
Thank you.
I want me some of that.
Doesn't that sound good?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. You know, I know you a little bit from we met at a company that we were both involved in. They had an annual event, and I met Shelia face to face there, and there was an immediate connection and her desire to be an author. And I'm so excited that you stepped up to that platform and got yourself into a book, and now you can call yourself a best-selling international author. Yeah,
because when we first met there, we were talking about it then, and it was it seems like it's about at least 4 years ago when we first met.
Yes.
And like I say, it was something that I kept thinking about but putting on the back burner, and finally, like I say, got my butt in gear and got it done. And now I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, well, isn't that the way that it always goes?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we procrastinate, and then it's like, why did I wait so long? Let's do this again.
Exactly. That wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, and that's usually it. We always try to, the fear of even getting started stops us.
Yeah. So that's really powerful. The fear of even getting started stops us, because I think that holds true for a lot of different things in life that are all transformational experiences that we will go through. But we allow fear to stop us from living our best life. And you've had a lot of experiences that have gotten in the way of you living your best life. So I know you gave us an overview, transforming trauma to triumph, and your world came to a screeching halt from, with the loss of your home to a fire. And we're going to talk about all of that. And, one of the things that is huge key to transformation, I believe, is gratitude. And you talk a lot about that as well. So let's dive right into this conversation. Let's talk a little bit about, since I mentioned it already, let's talk a little bit about where you were in terms of who you were being, how you were living your life when the fire occurred. Let's go there first.
All right. So for me, I was always that really high-achieving, go-getter kind of person that likes to constantly plan my whole life out, as I always like to know exactly where I'm going before I even start. Mm-hmm. And so I was, I got married when I was 20, and, I was just while I was finishing off my biology degree, and, we started off life really well, but as when you get married so early on in life, unfortunately, sometimes you end up growing apart. So after 13 years of marriage, we got divorced, and I had to learn who I was on my own. It's like my first time as an adult, really being on my own. And because I realized that I was always kind of like being that dutiful wife of always deferring to him. So I didn't even really know how to make my own decisions. Mm-hmm. And during that time, so I'm having to restart my life. And at the same time, I'm just starting a new career, as I had just finished getting my degree in education. So I was just starting my teaching career. Mm-hmm. And so that, because I had just gotten divorced, I decided to put all of my energy into my career. And that was my sole focus. Mm-hmm. And, and again, enjoyed it. I loved the process of teaching. I loved working with the teenagers. But I found it, as time went on, I was starting to get really feeling angry all the time and frustrated, and my stress level was starting to just go through the roof. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really like the person that I was becoming, as I felt like I was giving so much of myself to so many people, and I had nothing left for me at the end of the day, as I was, just never even thought to be on my priority list at all. And my health started to suffer. I was constantly getting sick all the time. And I was getting all of these signs, looking back, I can now see them, that they were all signs. And at the time, I didn't really recognize them, but it was all signs to slow down, change direction. But I was constantly ignoring them. I was kind of doing that stiff upper lip, soldiering on. Oh, I can get through it. I can get through anything. But with each new sign, they were getting more and more serious, because they were really trying to get my attention. And it kept going until I just couldn't ignore them any further. And that's when December 28th, 2010 came along, when I was out for dinner, having, a nice holiday dinner with a friend of mine, and I got the call that there was a fire in the condo above mine. Everything was gone, and you need to come home.
Wow.
And in that moment, I think my brain ceased to function. Like, I honestly I don't remember the drive home. It was about a 45-minute drive to get where I was, to get back home. And I was in, I guess the only way to put it is I was in shock.
Yeah.
A very functional form of shock, because I was able to drive. But it was, like, the first time in my life, I didn't have the answers. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know which way to go. Sometimes I could barely even form a sentence. When I got there and I walked in, and the fire chief brought me into my place and just saw the destruction that was once my home. Mm-hmm. And being a very type A personality, where everything has to be in its place. And then seeing everything in this mass chaos, like, again, it was just another layer of shock hit me. And yeah, I can say, and I literally at that moment ceased to function.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. But, there's also one of the things that I do know, I'm a potter, I'm a ceramic artist.
Mhm.
And when I talk about the fire, about pieces going into the fire, there's things that happen in the fire that are really transformational, let's say that, strength comes from the fire. And then the second firing of the pottery, beauty comes from the fire. You have an opportunity, with a blank slate in front of you on the piece of pottery to glaze it however you want to, and beauty comes in the fire. So I know that you had another setback after this. So let's go there. And then I want you to go to the place of where things transformed through those two experiences and how it brought you to where you are now.
Perfect. So yeah, so like I say, after dealing with, like I say, the initial trauma of the fire, and honestly, I went to a very dark place for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was, and I mean, and I figure, rightfully so. I've had my whole life, completely turned upside down, and me trying to deal with it all on my own was quite a task in itself. But so I finally just started to get my feet under me again and start moving forward. And because it was 8 months I was homeless until they got my place rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just getting back home, just moving back in, getting ready to kind of start that part of my life over again. And then I started feeling really ill, and I couldn't really understand it. Like it wasn't anything you could really put your finger on. I knew something wasn't right. So I was constantly, literally weekly, in my doctor's office going, am I falling apart piece by piece? Because I don't understand all these seemingly very random symptoms that I was having. So we went through this whole battery of testing, like you name it, I've been tested for it, because we had to do this whole elimination process to try to figure out what it was that I was going through. And in February of the next year, we finally, had the big green light of, oh my God, I know exactly what this is. And it ended up being diagnosed with a stress-based chronic illness called myalgic encephalomyelitis.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's quite a mouthful. It's ME for short. But it dealt with, the main symptoms are chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and massive brain fog.
Oh, wow.
So then it was like, oh, now I have another hit. And I now have to figure out who I am with all of this. And, so we're kind of like restarting my life twice in 1 year. There was a part of me that kind of went, I'm done.
Yeah. But you didn't.
No.
You didn't get done.
No.
You didn't get done. No. Instead, you use these two life-changing experiences to, I'm going to say, reinvent yourself. Yes. And really discover who you are. So let's talk a little bit about that process. Sure. How did you, I know that you let go of the teaching, which I'm sure you'll touch on, and you took on a whole new adventure, which ultimately led you to becoming a published, internationally best-selling published author, and a bunch of other things too. So let's talk about how you utilize these two life-changing experiences to create a positive transformation in your life.
Sure. Yeah, because after everything happened, I mean, of course, I started going through depression, anxiety, anger issues. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and as much, excuse me, sorry, I'm just kind of getting over allergic reactions here, so I'm still kind of a little froggy. There was something in, as easy as it was to just allow all of that to take me over, there was something deep inside of me that said, no, this isn't you. This isn't what you're here for. This isn't what you're meant for. You're meant for so much more, and you need to get your butt moving. So it was like this big light switch got flipped in me, and I had this major realization that it was actually me that had to do some changing. Because I was always looking to the outside world of, of what's causing this. Is it I don't like my job anymore? Is it my relationships? Is it my family? Our natural default is always to look to the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But I made this grand realization that no, it's actually me. I'm the common denominator here. So I started down this path of personal development, which at that point in time, I wasn't even consciously aware that it even really existed,
Mm-hmm.
or I didn't really understand what it was all about. So I started going to every workshop, webinar that I could possibly get my hands onto. Started reading as many books as I can, as I started just becoming very kind of like having this voracious hunger to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
And it started that I realized I really had to change my mindset and my thought patterns about myself, my life, learning more about the law of attraction and how that works, and realizing, that positive or negatively, it will still work for you. So, be careful what you focus on.
That's a good point. Let's go there for a second. I don't think people realize that the law of attraction works both ways.
Mm-hmm.
What you think about, you bring about.
Exactly.
What you focus on becomes greater. And I think that for the law of attraction, not to divert anywhere else here, I want you to stay where you are, but I think that a lot of people think that the law of attraction is going to get them everything they want, everything they desire, and there'll never be a bad day in the rest of my life. I think that's the illusion that the conversation about the law of attraction has created among us. And it's not just about what's good in your life. It's about what's bad in your life. And I don't like the analogy of good and bad, but, it goes back to what you think about, you bring about. If you're thinking positive thoughts, if you're thinking abundance, you're going to get positive and abundant. And if you're thinking negative thoughts and have a mindset of lack, you'll never have enough.
Exactly.
So continue. I just wanted to reiterate that, because I think a lot of people are under the delusion that the law of attraction doesn't work. It always works.
Mm-hmm.
If you're focusing on that, it's bringing to you.
Well, that's just it. And like you say, people got this idea that, oh, I'm just going to say I want bags of money and they're just going to fall from the sky. Well, it's, you have to be very clear as to what you want. And like I say, and be very clear, because if you're not, the universe can just you said you wanted this, and well, that's what you got. It may not be exactly what you were looking for, but you weren't exactly all that clear. And as much as I never will say that, I caused the fire in any way, but, I started looking back and with that mindset, looking at it, and, the amount of times that I would sit here and be angry at certain things that were in my place. And I kept saying, I wish I had a new home. I wish I had a new home. I can't stand this place. I want a new home. Well, I got a new home.
Yeah.
I didn't exactly plan to have to go through everything that I did, and I wish I wouldn't have had to have that experience.
Yeah.
But the thing is I did get a new home. I was just in the exact same spot as I was before. So I'm now
and you weren't clear about it too. And that reminds me of the commercial where, I don't know if you have it there, because Sheila's in Canada, so I don't know if you have it there. There's a commercial about a guy who gets the opportunity to rub a genie's lamp and ask for anything he wants. And he says, I want $1 million. And in his front yard show up male deer.
Nice.
Got to be clear. Got to be clear on what you want.
Well, exactly. And, and I find, like, as you said, what you focus on is what you focus on, you bring about. And that's for me, where gratitude becomes the biggest thing. Because whatever it is, what we're focusing on, our brain will find proof of that. So if you're, always, oh, this is going to be a bad day, and it's not, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. Well, if you're focusing on that, you can bet your life that you're going to have big traffic, you're going to be slowing down, you're going to hit every red light, you're going to, something's going to happen just to slow you down and keep adding to this negativity of your day. But if you're going with an attitude of gratitude through everything, and you train your brain to look for those things, you're going to find more things to be happy and positive and have that gratitude about. But it's a process of retraining our brains, because our default mechanism is not to look for the positive.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to our caveman days where we always had to be on alert for danger. Because around every corner there could be a saber-toothed tiger or something, trying to jump out and eat us. Well, we still have that programming within us, but we don't live in that time anymore.
Yeah.
We don't have that danger every second we walk out the door, but that's like I say, our default mechanism is to always look for the negative and to look for the danger. So we actually have to reprogram ourselves in regards to the gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up. And I hope everybody will come back to next week for a conversation on gratitude, because as we enter into the fall and the seasons, as they change, a lot of things within us change. And we're going to look at gratitude a little bit deeper next week. But everything
Awesome.
you said is, and I invite you to come back, Sheila. Everything that you said is so powerful, and it's, I believe that is one of the keys to abundant living. Gratitude is the key that unlocks the door. I often say, this is my quote: gratitude is the key that unlocks the door to abundant living in every area of your life. And let's talk about every area of your life, because your shifts happened in a lot of different places. And it was your physical well-being, your physical surroundings, you changed yourself, you transformed internally so that you could have a more effective outward effect on the world. So let's talk about what you did to create this amazing change and go from trauma and defeat and rubble to where you are now.
Well, I feel like I don't mean to repeat myself, but one of the main things was learning the whole idea. Like I say, around law of attraction was actually one of the first things I kind of hooked into. So really learning about that, how that works, where gratitude comes in, and practicing it. Like anything, it's a practice. So it is something that has to be done on a daily basis to do that reprogramming. So I started, I kept trying different strategies to see which ones worked the best for me. So I would start a gratitude journal where every night, the last thing I did before I went to bed was kind of go back through my day and what were some things that happened that I could be really, truly grateful for. And sometimes they can be the smallest or biggest things. Like some days it was down to just having the purr of my cat next to me because it's so comforting. But I am so grateful for that, like having that little warm life being, with me every day that I can depend on. And it could be up to as big as, something amazing happened that day. And I think a lot of times when it comes to gratitude, we start thinking that everything has to be big and exciting and dramatic, but it could be as much as, finding $1 in the street. Because that's $1 more than you had before. So it was starting with that. So that was the start of changing my mindset. Then it was looking at what words I used. Always using certain words that actually were self-sabotaging. Looking at the can'ts, the don'ts, the shoulds, the tries. Those are all words now that become red flags for me. So the moment I say them, it now triggers something. It's like, oh, okay, where is this really coming from? Is that a fear that's talking? Is it, a limiting belief that is talking? Or is it something like my mother talking? Kind of how we have our parental, messages still kind of, running through our head. So what those became trigger words for me that I would sit and look at and go, okay, no, I need to change the way I'm talking and thinking about things. In regards to my health, I with this illness that I was diagnosed with, it's a very, I would say, rarely diagnosed illness. So most doctors really had no idea how to deal with it. So they had me on massive amounts of antibiotics, two of the highest strains antibiotics you can get for a solid year. And we know when we're on antibiotics for that long of time, the damage that it actually ends up creating in our bodies. So I, went against my doctor's wishes. And I mean, I don't say that everyone should be doing that, but that was something I felt that was right for me at that time. And I said, I'm going to take care of this on my own. I'm going a more holistic route. I'm going a natural route. I feel that that's what I need to do. So I started changing, what I actually put in my body, going as organic as possible, getting away from the processed foods, getting away from the sugars, getting away from the things that actually create a lot of the inflammation in that within my body, since inflammation was one of the main triggers for everything that I was dealing with. Mm-hmm. So I started doing a lot of, research on that, on figuring out what little changes can I make there. And the one thing that always used to get me with the doctors with when I was first diagnosed is they said I was not allowed to do any exercise whatsoever because it was too stressful on my body. And before everything happened, I was running 5 days a week. I was boxing in the gym. I was constantly, on the trails hiking, and for me to come to a dead stop was really hard, but I listened to them. And it got to the point where my body was in so much pain and so stiff, there were some days I couldn't even stand or walk, let alone do much of anything else. But I figured I have to start doing something. So again, going against their wishes, I started walking again. And I could only do 10 minutes at a time. After 10 minutes, I was like, I'm done. I'm in so much pain. I can't do anymore. But it was this process of rebuilding my stamina again for that, up to the point, and I can't remember the timeline. I think it was about over a 2-year period. It got to the point where I got to my personal best of hiking up into a mountain for 7 straight hours.
Wow.
So, and then when I come back and tell my doctors that, you're like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, well, it's a process, little by little, but I was making these changes that allowed it. And then it was kind of funny that the latest research started catching up with me, and they said, they've now figured out that if you actually push your body a little bit and create new muscle, it's not becoming infected. So you're actually getting better. And I'm like, well, I've already improved that. So it was great that all the things that I was telling them were finally being proven.
Yeah, exactly.
So intuitively, I just seemed to know what was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. I don't know how, whatever you want to call it, the messages that I was getting, but I was listening. And that's the big thing, is when you get that gut feeling, when you get that thought that comes and you're like, where did that come from? Listen to it. Mm-hmm. And that was something I never used to do. I would just go, oh, that's crazy. I don't even want to listen to that. But I learned the hard way what happens when you don't listen to that little inner voice. So again, it was a process of me learning to reconnect with that inner voice and to trust it. Because honestly, it's the one thing that always had my back. And realizing that. So now when I get those, I'll be like, yep, okay, thank you. Working on it, kind of thing. So,
wow, you just said so many things.
I know. I was like,
a lot of different things, and we're actually at the half-hour mark. So I'm going to invite anyone. Do you believe it's gone a half an hour already?
No, it goes so quick.
I know, but I'm just going to invite everybody, and then I'm going to recap some of the things that I heard you say. If you're on the phone and you have a question for Shelia, press *9 on your phone so I can recognize you and open your line. If you are on video, you can just simply raise your hand or click the little button that says raise hand, and I'll be able to see you and bring you into the conversation. So I invite you all to participate. This is an interactive conversation. That's one of the reasons why I love Zoom so much, because it allows it to be like that. So
it's a great platform. I love it.
No, right? It's such a really good platform. I just love it. So one of the things, you did your research, you found out about inflammation, sugar, gluten, exercise is really something. And I want to go to the fact that most of us, we think that if we stop something, we're going to immediately feel the difference.
Oh, yeah.
And in some cases you will. But, life is a process.
Mm-hmm.
Every day is a process. And I have to remind myself that, as I journey through my life with some of a lot of similar stuff that you have, inflammation does a lot of things to your body. And, I know that I feel better when I'm not eating sugar. I feel better when I'm not putting gluten in my body. I know I feel better when I exercise. So why not just take a step toward feeling better, no matter how small that step is? I don't have to do 20 laps in the pool. I can get in the pool and walk from side to side.
Exactly.
If that's the easiest way for me to move. I can start by walking down to the end of my huge 3 football field long driveway that I have and get that exercise in, rather than, sitting on my butt in front of my computer. And don't get me wrong, my work keeps me in front of my computer as well, because I do editing and publishing and so forth and so on. And we're going to go to the book in just a minute. But, do what you can to make things a little different. And I think that as people are waking up, I'm going to say waking up, in this world today and becoming more and more aware of what's out there for them, that the conversations that we're having with the medical professions that we went to in years gone by are a little less, they're as valuable as they were then, because we know we can use our own discernment. And I love what you said about listening to your gut, because that's so important. My doctor thinks I'm nuts. He'll want to take out the prescription pad and want to say, I'm not doing that. Well, what do you mean you're not doing that? I said, I don't think that's the answer. I don't think the answer is from outside. I think some of this has to happen from the inside. Yeah. And that starts with listening to your gut. Your gut told you to move instead of staying stationary. And you said you achieved a personal best within 2 years. And how awesome is that? That's amazing. So kudos to you, Shelia.
Well, and when you look at it even like that way, if you had told me when I started, when I could only walk 10 minutes at a time, that at one point, like I say, anyone who knows the West Coast here, where we have the gigantic Rocky Mountains all around us here, that I was now going to be hiking up one of those mountains for 7 straight hours and I was going to survive, I would have thought you were crazy. There was no way I would have thought that. But when I came back down that day, and I was tired. I was in pain that day, but I was sitting there going, I did that. Look how far I've actually come. And had I not listened to that voice and just continued going by what everybody was telling me, I never would have been able to do it.
Yeah. Huge point there. Listening to your gut. I wrote a story for someone called Listen to the Whispers. And there were many points in my life where, in hindsight, I recognized that I did not listen to that little whisper. Yeah. And I got myself into a lot of trouble. Emotionally, financially, spiritually, physically. And listening to that still small voice that is your inner wisdom. And last week we had Dana Proctor on here, and she talked about listening to your inner wisdom. And for those of you who are on the Transformational Tuesdays email list, that information is going out to you. I think it actually has gone out today, so you'll be receiving a recording. So, and she talks a lot about listening to your inner wisdom, and so of course you, Shelia, and that's one of the things that I think, particularly as women, we tend to, the self-care piece you talked about in your bio, we tend to neglect ourselves even when that still small voice is talking to us, because we put so many hats on during our lives. we're mothers, we're daughters, we're employees, we're whatever hat is that you're wearing at any given point becomes more important than than your own self and what your gut is trying to tell you. So trusting that is really important, and you did, and then you embarked on an entirely new business venture. So let's talk about what you do now with people and how what you have learned is helping other people to step in their personal power.
Well, and you said the magic word there was the personal power, and that's where I found in regards to, like I say, taking control of my health again, was me taking back my power again. And like I say, as women, we either through, culturally, through, our family backgrounds, whatever it is, we kind of are brought up to constantly be giving our power away. And having that realization of truly how powerful we are when we step into it, and finding the different ways to do that. So this is, like I say, where that was the biggest lesson I had to learn, was the self-care piece for me, because I was never one to think of myself. I was brought up to take care of everybody and everything. And I enjoyed it. I enjoy taking care of people. I enjoy helping people. But it came to a point in time where I actually felt there was a part of me that actually resented it, because nobody was asking me if I needed help. And I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm tired of being the strong one for everybody else. I want someone to help me. But then I realized I had to help myself.
Yeah.
And I call it being my own superhero. I had to save myself.
I love that.
So I try to imagine myself in my own little, superwoman cape. And I always say, you know what, Wonder Woman and I have never been seen in the same room at the same time. So just saying, But, and I had to learn how to save myself instead of depending on other people to do it for me.
Yeah.
So now I work with people in finding ways to empower them in certain areas of their life, whether it's in doing things in regards to their health. It's really trying to find that balance. We can't be all things to all people all the time, although we really, really try. Because again, that's kind of like we're kind of inundated with that message through the media that we're all, we are super women, we can do it all. And we can, but you need to take care of yourself in the meantime. You do have to have that piece of, what is it that I truly need? So when I look at the self-care piece, we're really good at thinking of the physical self-care, and that's where I think most people will tend to, I'm going to go for a massage, I'm going to get a manicure, I'm going to go have, shopping kind of thing. But that's only part of it. You have to have an emotional self-care. You need a spiritual self-care, and you need a mental self-care. Yeah. And those are the ones that a lot of people miss out on. And I really realized that relationship, I really focus on the relationship with self, because if you don't have that good relationship with yourself, it doesn't matter how much work you do in other aspects of your life. It's like building a house on sand. Eventually they're going to crumble. Your relationship with yourself is your foundation upon which everything else is built. So that is where that's where I start with people, is really getting solid with that relationship. So it becomes with working on the self-love piece. How do I actually learn to love myself? Because nobody teaches us that. We hear it all the time. Love yourself, accept yourself, be true to yourself. Great concepts, but what does that actually mean? What does it look like? What are the steps that I have to take?
Yeah.
So that's where, I had to learn it for myself, and I'm still learning it. I still have those days where I'm going to get, I get down on myself, but then instead of that moment stretching into days and days and days, I give myself like 10 minutes. Okay, are you done? All right, let's move on. I kick myself in the butt and get moving again, because people get stuck in the, I have to be perfect all the time. We're human. You know what? And we have to accept the fact there are times we're not going to be perfect. Sometimes we're going to say things, that it's like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. But at that moment, the moment you see it, recognize it, own it, and then do what you have to change it around. Because it's taking the responsibility for your life.
Right. And, you said so much in there, and I love what you said about you gave so much information. I'm taking notes here like crazy.
You see the smoke coming off your pen?
Yeah, exactly. So your relationship with yourself is the foundation
upon which everything else
is built. I wrote so fast I couldn't read my writing. Upon which everything else is built.
Yeah.
And, I think you said a lot of things. You said, but in the meanwhile, we don't do our self-care in the meanwhile. I'm saying this for myself as much as I'm saying it to acknowledge what you said.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a coach once told me that the first thing I should put in my calendar every day is time that is self-care for me.
Yeah.
My time in the morning to write in my journal, my time in the morning to go into my spiritual books and really build myself up spiritually, my time in the morning for my gratitude, and in the evening. Gratitude should be done on both ends of the day, I think. Yeah. And I love what you said about if you don't do this, you're actually building your house on sand, and you're bound to crumble somehow. And I often say, somehow God's going to get us to our knees one way or the other. It's like that's the way. That's what I think. And
I looked at it too, that like you say if the longer you ignore things, the harder you're going to come to your knees. And I proved that for myself, right? Because I ignored for years and years. And it took me literally being brought down to zero by losing all of my physical possessions, which, I used to, I have such a huge attachment to. And then I had to be brought down to zero in regards to my health and my, emotional, mental state. Like I literally had a complete reset. It's like the universe hit that reset button, and said, okay, you need to start from zero again, and let's do it right.
Yeah. And I heard you say that there were a lot of things along the way that happened that let you know that something was coming. And it's like, it reminds me of that. And I heard this again recently about the flood, when it rains so hard and there's a guy in the house and there's a flood coming, and somebody comes by and says, come on, I'll take you to dry land. No, God's going to save me. I'll be fine. And the flood waters rise and the boat comes along. Come on, I'll take you to high ground. No, God's going to save me. And then he ends up on the top of the roof, and a helicopter comes and he says, no, God's going to save me. And of course the guy dies, and he gets in front of God, and God says, what? He says to God, why didn't you save me? He said, well, I sent you a car, I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter. What else did you want me to do? So I mean, how many things are going to happen in our lives that we ignore, and the lesson gets bigger, and the problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger, until finally we're on our knees, asking for help and guidance or whatever. Because I don't think, and this goes to how you reach out to others too, Shelia, and helping them, giving a hand up to other people.
Yeah.
You now have a coaching, you're coaching, and your business is Reignite Your Purpose, and your website is reigniteyourpurpose.com. You can find her on Facebook under Reignite Your Purpose. And Shelia Sutherland is Sutherland. And if you want to email Shelia, and we'll give you this information, and again, before the call is over, Shelia at reigniteyourpurpose.com. And I want to acknowledge Tina. I've had something sitting in the chat group here, in the group chat here. She says she's been on a similar journey. She gained a lot of weight after 50, as did I, especially when I cared for my mom until her death.
Yeah.
I can relate. I had such joint pain and bad health that I could barely walk. Hello. I could only go to the store once a week and only purchase a few items, or I would become too exhausted. We found out that I was being exposed to large doses of toxic mold being pumped through our air conditioner. So, it could be that there are outside influences happening in your life that you're not aware of. But she discovered that it's been a slow recovery, but it has changed my eating habits, and I expect it's saving me from other health problems. I'm grateful for the awakening. So when information comes to us, there are a lot of people that'll just sit, and I know some of them, and some of them are family members who will just sit in the nonsense, regardless of whatever it is, whether it's external or internal, will just sit in the nonsense, and somehow, this is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Hello, if you're sitting in it and you're not doing anything to change it, that, my friend, is pure insanity. Agreed, Sheila?
Yes. Well, and it's if anyone wants to read a really interesting book, it's I wasn't planning for this, and I'm trying to. I've totally lost it, but it's called Don't Dull. Something about not to dull your sparkle. Mm-hmm. And again, the author is like completely but she's the one who's really known for angels. I just can't think of her name right now.
Doreen Virtue?
Yes, thank you, Doreen Virtue. Mm-hmm. And he talks about how a lot of people are actually addicted to drama. Yes. And how the actual, I didn't realize that she has a whole scientific background, which made me absolutely love this book even more, because I didn't realize she had this part on her, so it spoke to that part of me. And it talks about how when you are addicted to drama, it's the same chemical reactions that happen in your body as to other addictions.
Oh, yeah.
So when people are sitting there in their story and the woe is me and the being the victim, and not doing anything about it, it's because they are addicted to that drama. They get something out of it, mm-hmm. even though it's a negative reaction to them. It's not helping them in any way.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I've gone through a lot of, you talk about personal development. I have gone through a lot of personal development in my time, and it started with, I think, Landmark. The Landmark Landmark group. And it was like, they call it like running rackets. What do you get? Why is this? It's like running rackets in the back room, like something, you're getting something out of this. So, I think before as you enter into a conversation with yourself about what am I going to do to change this, first, I think you have to discern what you're getting out of the behavior that you want to change. Yeah. Right? And so because you've got to replace it with something else, because if you give them something, you got to replace it with something else so that you don't feel that lack or whatever. And I'm sure this is what you teach, Sheila, because I know just from speaking to you during this hour and what I know about you, that's probably one of the philosophies that you subscribe to. So talk about that a little bit, and then let's talk about your book.
Sorry, I just didn't hear that first part. I heard talk about, and I didn't hear the rest.
Talk about what I just said about replacing one thing with another, and how can you give us a couple of tips on how we can do that, and then let's talk about your book.
Well, the one thing that was really coming up for me, anyways, when you were talking about that, is a lot of times when we are looking to outside sources to make us feel better. Mm-hmm. It is because we don't truly understand how we receive love. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't just mean, just in regards to romantic relationships, but just love in general, love from our family, love from our friends. And it was one of the first books I ever read was The 5 Love Languages.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten divorced, so I wasn't married at that time. But I still read the one, the initial one for relationships. And it was a huge awakening for me to know what it is that what I need to feel appreciated, to know what it is to feel love from the people and that around me. And I think once you know what that is, it helps actually change your behavior in a lot of the situations in your life. Like for me, I'm one of these, the bilingual people that have 2 of the different love languages, where for me it's personal touch and quality time. So in knowing that, when I am with my friends and family, I know how much just getting those hugs all the time mean to me. Like it actually refills me. It helps any negativity in my day melt away.
Mm-hmm.
And just spending time with people, where I was always trying to fill my life with stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought that would make it feel good, and it did in the moment, but then it would go away, so I'd have to get more stuff to make me feel better. But then I realized it's actually having that quality time, having those connections with people. And once I realized that is really, truly what I needed, I started focusing on that. And I really started focusing on truly connecting with the people around me and opening myself up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I lived behind a wall. I lived very protected. If I let people in, they're going to hurt me. And I lived my life, especially after my divorce, I really started living my life like that, and realizing that I'm keeping myself from all the goodness in the world. And when I started opening myself up with that and really connecting with the right people, because again, it's figuring out who you really want in your life. And I'm not sure, again, who said this quote. It's one of the big gurus out there. It says that we're the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And when I started looking at that, I was like, okay, so I really want to make sure that I want to live a more happy, positive, connected life. So I need to find those people. And once I put that intention out there, like, oh my God, the people that have come into my life, like truly, like my main core of people have completely shifted over these last few years. Like the people who I'm now considering my closest and best friends, I didn't know them 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and don't get me wrong, it's not like I dumped everybody that was in my life before, but there were certain people I had to let go of.
Yeah.
Because they just honestly were not good for me.
And wouldn't you say, you let go of them, and in some cases, God or the universe let go of them for you? They just kind of fade away into the distance, and you move into, and other people who you more relate to at this level come into your life and they're beautiful gifts when they do.
Yeah, because when you're looking at relationships with people, it shouldn't be hard. And there were some relationships that I felt like I had to work so hard at to try to maintain. Mm-hmm. And it drained me so much. And I'm like, there's something in this relationship that isn't supposed to be here. I'm supposed to learn something from this. Like they always say, people come into your life for either for life or for a season. And you don't have to be with people forever.
It's true.
One of my bestest friends, we've known each other since we're 9, and we still, we see each other often. And those types of relationships are rare, to have someone in your life that many years. Mm-hmm. But it's once you open yourself up to who you want in your life and the kind of people you want in your life and the kind of life you want to live, they come. Mm-hmm. And they come in droves.
Yes.
Literally they do when you finally get very clear. And that's the big thing and that I always work with people on, is getting really super clear on what it is you want.
Yeah.
And actually I was at a retreat this weekend, and someone said something to me that even made this even more important. And she said, when you are in close proximity with people, we are actually exchanging DNA. Just in the talking process, we're exchanging DNA with people. And I'm kind of like, ooh, that's even going to make it even more important that I'm like, who do I want to share my DNA with? And who do I want their DNA to be a part of me? Right? So it's that focusing on, I really, really want the positive, uplifting, inspiring people in my life.
Yeah. I'm with you, girl. I'm with you. I am so with you. So let's, one of the things that you had on your to-do list and your desire list was to become a published author. And you are do you have a copy of the book right there?
Right here.
Awesome.
I had a feeling you were going to say about it.
I have one, but it's behind me. And if I didn't have to reach and turn my back to everybody, put it up so everyone could see it.
Okay.
It's called 365 Moments of Grace. And Shelia has 2 stories in that book. And I invite you to go ahead and get your copy. Where can they get a copy? I know on Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah. Do you have them on your website?
Yes, I do. Okay. Under the products tab.
Okay.
And it's got the
So,
links on there, so it'll take you right to the Amazon link.
right. Now you can go to Sheila's website where she has a gift for you, and I believe it is focused on gratitude. Yeah.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Because to me, again, like that's the start of everything. Any transformation starts with gratitude.
Yes.
And yeah, so
Okay.
I give on this, I call it the 5 steps to gratitude. So I kind of go through why gratitude is so important. And then I give you, I mean, there are many different strategies you can use. I just give you 5 that I have worked with. And it's pick one, pick them all, whatever works for you, because you have to work. If something doesn't feel right to you, you're not going to continue on with it. So find a strategy that works
Right.
and fits into your life. But the thing is just find one and do one.
Right, exactly. And you can find your copy of that at reigniteyourpurpose.com. And it will, when you sign up for Sheila's newsletter or whatever it is that she has there, she is offering that to you. Reigniteyourpurpose.com, and you can get your 5 steps to gratitude. If you'd like to reach out to Sheila and find out more about what she does and who she is, you can email her at sheila@reigniteyourpurpose.com. Friend her on Facebook. You can find her on Twitter at SH Sutherland. And you can also find her on Instagram under Reignite Your Purpose. So, and Sheila, you have a weekly podcast, don't you?
I do. So I'm just, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to be uploading, on Tuesdays, I upload my episodes. And actually today's episode is with one of my fellow co-authors and talking about her story that she did in the 365 Moments of Grace.
Awesome.
So so definitely, subscribe to the podcast. And so weekly, you'll get, I interview a lot of people, and I want people who have either, like say, come from moving trauma to triumph, or have inspiring stories, or they have skills that they can give to us to help us in our transformation. So it's about, I'm trying to do it kind of half and half right now, of half interviews and then half it being, my commentary on something that happens. Because sometimes something will happen, I'll be just like, oh my God, I need to say something about this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get it, because I at least once a month I try and do my commentary, and next week is going to be the week for that, and we are going to be talking about gratitude, and I'm actually putting together a book about gratitude that people are going to have an opportunity to learn more about as well. So Sheila, this has been an incredibly enlightening hour. I
can't believe it's an hour.
I know, right? I'm going to offer the opportunity just for one last question. If anyone has a question one last time, or a comment that you want to make, and if you don't want to speak, or you're in a place where you can't speak and you'd like to use the chat, feel free to do that. I just want to acknowledge, I've been watching Teresa, and her head has been bobbing up and down the entire time, and she's taking notes and she's relating, and that's what I want. That's what fills my spirit with joy.
And I could see certain things that were hitting home with her, so the smile would start. So she's like,
yes. And so that's the beauty of having this this visual platform is. I can see when light bulbs are going off, or I can see when buttons are being pushed and whatnot. And I'm just so grateful that you've been coming to the call each week, Teresa. Thank you so much. And I hope this is proving valuable in your life, as well as anyone who is listening on the phone, or anyone else who I did not acknowledge who's on video. So, changing the world one conversation at a time, Sheila.
Yeah.
One conversation at a time, one page in a book at a time,
definitely,
one client at a time. It's like, Lao Tzu says that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. What's your first step on your transformation? What is the first step that you need to take? And do you need to take somebody with you on this journey? If you do, raise your hand in this community, because there are a lot of people in the Transformational Tuesdays community who are looking for people to link arms with, to take the walk together and journey through life. And, there's an accountability piece to that. There's a relationship building piece to that. There's a vulnerability piece to that. There's so many different things that are come to the surface and can be awakened within each and every one of us if we just show up as who we are and link arms with someone else who's doing the same. And that's why I do Transformational Tuesdays every week, to bring these conversations to beautiful people, mostly women, who are just showing up, waking up, playing full out, and traveling transformationally through this world. And I want to thank you again, Shelia. Any last words before we close?
The last thing I just wanted to say is we're not meant to do this journey alone.
Exactly.
We're not, even though a lot of times we feel like we should stay in the shadows and just deal with our stuff by ourselves. We're not. We're not meant to do this alone. We're meant to do this as a community. And, you know, when they say that, you know, it takes a village to build a child, well, it takes a village to build us all. Yeah. So it's like, this is an awesome village that you have built here, and we're all here to support, love, and just like hold hands and take us through all of our individual journeys.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Shelia. And with that being said, I invite you to come back next week, where we will continue our conversation on gratitude, among other things, and join with us as we journey through what I like to call the transformational trails of life. Until next time, we'll see you again.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Have a great day.